TV Crazy Man here. On this video, I take you back to the Old West once more with some hilarious classic TV and movie Western goofs. I found more cars and airplanes and other future inventions invading the Old West, stuntman replacements, and funny foul-ups that just may shock you.
You have no idea how good that makes me feel.
Let's look at some goofs from the second season of Maverick, starting with this huge whopper of a goof on an episode spoofing Gunsmoke, entitled Gun Shy. This episode centered on James Garner's Brett Maverick. Some other episodes featured brother Bart Maverick, played by Jack Kelly.
How many men you shot this month for aggravating you a lot less than he has?
This episode had its own funny version of Chester, Doc, Miss Kitty, and Matt Dillon, named Mort Dooley.
Shall I stand a little closer, Marshal?
Marshal Dooley can't stand Maverick, and he keeps trying to run him out of town. Using friendly persuasion, of course.
Well, you're not going to shoot me.
That's what I usually do.
Now get ready and see if you can spot the goof. Did you catch it? Okay, see if you can catch it now. I mean, what a place to park your car, right in the middle of making a Western. Of course, you can never rule out time travelers, but you'd think somebody would have noticed that.
Hey, Scott!
In the episode, The Judas Mask, featuring Bart Maverick, it looks like they don't want us to know which century we are in, because right off the bat, we see a town with power lines everywhere. Later, Bart gets into a stagecoach. That becomes a completely different coach just moments later. What could possibly explain this? I'm just asking, I really don't know. On the episode, Two Beggars on Horseback, this man is an amazing shot, able to shoot through Maverick with a shotgun, no less, and hit the bad guy without even grazing Maverick. Now that's amazing. The episode Duel at Sundown, guest starring Clint Eastwood, aired just 1 month after Clint's big TV series Rawhide debuted. For some reason, Clint keeps mispronouncing Maverick's name.
Mr. Maverick? Your stage is waiting for you, Maverick. I'm not a bloodthirsty man, Mr. Maverick.
I know some of you are probably saying that Clint mispronounced Maverick's name on purpose. But how do we really know? I mean, would you tell him that he made a mistake? I mean, I'm just saying. Now let's check out some unexpected and unusual goofs from the 1972 TV series Kung Fu, starring David Carradine.
It binds one to the reality of oneself.
Yeah, exactly. Goofs bind the reality of, something. Anyway, Kung Fu was an action-packed series that put martial arts into the Old West. In the episode, The Ancient Warrior, it features Chief Dan George, best known for the outlaw Josie Wells.
Name's Josie Wales. I've heard of that name.
Who stars as the Ancient Warrior. In the goof, he lights a fire for a funeral scene for his son. It's a very solemn scene that becomes a little more difficult to take seriously when this modern-day fire extinguisher suddenly pops up. I guess even in the Old West, fire safety was important, enough to break the rules of the space-time continuum.
Great Scott!
Say, you don't think that had anything to do with the way fights always seem to be happening in slow motion on this show, do you? Check that out. It looks like a time traveler must have left behind a styrofoam cup.
Great Scott! I know, this is heavy.
Is it my imagination, or is reality itself bending? Check out all the signs that are reading backwards. Is that an electrical transmission tower in the Old West on the episode Superstition?
I do not know.
Could be!
In the episode Chains, there are further anomalies with time. If you look really closely, you can just make out a car going by. I wonder if Kane saw that. On this episode, it doesn't look good for Kane, who's headed for the gallows. But now I'm distracted by another transmission tower. I'm pretty sure that everything came out fine, though, because he was on the next episode. In the episode The Tide, this sheriff is a bit of a jerk, who tries to intimidate a Chinese woman with his skills with a rifle. He doesn't seem to realize he has a shell casing stuck in his hat. Not even when he tips his hat to the lady.
Miss Lou?
You know, it would have served him right if he burned a hole in his hat. In this scene, the horse about knocks over the hitching post. And yet another electrical tower. In the episode, Blood Brother, a body is found in a swamp. But the crazy thing is, the covered up body is clearly breathing. Actors playing dead can often be seen still breathing, of course, but the weird thing is, as much as I appreciate realism in a show, was it really necessary to put a real person under that blanket? After all, we couldn't actually see their face.
Crazy, all of it's crazy.
Here's a fun one from the episode King of the Mountain. In this scene, the two men are fighting it out, all alone. There's no one around, except John Saxon, David Carradine, and John Saxon's stuntman. And here's the stuntman again, this time he's in the action. Also, I'm not sure what to think about that mustache. Saxon, of course, reminds me of Bruce Lee, whom he co-starred with on the movie Enter the Dragon. Many sources claim that Bruce Lee helped develop the Kung Fu series and was cheated out of the lead role. If this is indeed true, no offense to the memory of David Carradine, of course, but if this is true, that was a huge goof. I mean, to have the legendary Bruce Lee on this series would have doubled its lifetime earnings. Maybe they could have had both actors and made it a show about two brothers traveling around the West. On another point, if you were wondering how David Carradine could play a Chinese man, in the show he's only supposed to be half Chinese. This episode wins the award for the worst fake bird in television for 1973. Not only is the bird just a little stiff, but you can see the string holding it up. Hey, it's William Shatner disguised as a ship's captain on dry land. Is that coincidental or ironic? I almost didn't recognize him. In the episode, The Garments of Rage, there's an unidentified flying object in the air. Could this be a flying saucer or a jet that just broke through the time barrier? No, I'm thinking jet or flying saucer from outer space.
Yes.
There it is again in the episode of Lamb to the Slaughter. Is this ancient Chinese soldier carrying a walkie-talkie? Well, at least it's not a smartphone. Then I'd be worried.
Go now, grasshopper.
Now let's see what kind of goose we can find from the Shakiest Gun in the West, starring Don Knotts. In the movie, Knotts plays a dentist named Jesse Haywood who goes out west. Haywood is seen walking with his mother to his train car. He passes several cars, including one named Cumberland. At Wilmington, he turns around and walks straight back. But Cumberland has just disappeared off the face of the planet. When Don and his patient get into a fight, they both go through a radical transformation. He gets more hair and she gets more manly. During the Indian attack scene, this stuntman gets shot 3 times. Poor Haywood. You know, just a second before he was crying out for water, I swear there was at least a canteen on his horse anyway. 1 second there's a canteen, then he looks up at the sun, and then poof, the canteen's gone. Fun fact, did you know the Shakiest Gun in the West was based off of the 1948 movie Paleface, starring Bob Hope and Jane Russell? Now let's look at a couple of goofs from the movie The Paleface and its sequel, Son of Paleface. Seen here is painless Peter Potter trying to shave. I dare you to try to say that 5 times fast. In one shot you can see a thin black line. This was likely used to guide the arrow that narrowly misses Bob. They filmed a big chunk of this movie indoors, which must have been some humongous studios. But when Bob or his dummy is tossed in the air, you can see the dummy's shadow on the wall for just a second. The 1952 sequel, Son of Paleface, also starred the King of the Cowboys, Roy Rogers. Roy plays Roy Barton in this movie. In one scene where Roy and Trigger are showing off, his stirrups have his initials, but it's RR for Roy Rogers and not RB for his character's name. Roy jumps off a Trigger in one scene to pay a secret visit to the governor, but when he calls for Trigger to come back, it looks like someone is helping to hold Trigger in place to wait for his cue. Now, if you're a fan of Roy Rogers or Bob Hope or just old movies in general, this one's for you. I love this movie. Now let's head back to the Ponderosa for some goofs from Season 2 and 3 of Bonanza. The episode Showdown is a pretty serious episode. The young guy named Sam Kirby here just recently got out of prison for killing his cruel stepfather. And the sheriff had just stopped by with a report of Sam's past that Ben Cartwright has decided to crumple up and throw away into the fire as a gesture of forgetting Sam's past and moving forward. Unfortunately for Lauren Green, his dramatic gesture falls short as the crumpled report bounces out of the fire. But he's just going to keep staring into the fire dramatically and pretend it's burning anyway. In the episode, The Last Viking, we get to see a big fight where this guy actually picks up a dude over his head and then throws a barrel, which becomes the other dude again in midair. It's really confusing. So what do you think? Do we file this under bizarre, unexplained, or unusual, or all the above?
Crazy, all of it's crazy.
The episode Sam Hill guest stars Claude Akins, who will forever be Sheriff Lobo to me. Sam Hill gets into a fight with this guy and his henchmen. But strangely, after the henchmen are knocked out, they just disappear, along with their horses. I guess they got in the way of the dramatic moment. All I can say is, what the Sam Hill is going on here? I mean, if they did all run away, they sure didn't show it to us. On the episode, The Tin Badge, we are reminded that good guys always win, no matter what, even if the shots they make defy all logic. I mean, how does Little Joe aim this close to the ground and hit a guy on top of a roof? That's definitely the biggest trick shot I've ever seen on a Western, and not counting the magic shotgun blast on Maverick. Now let's see what kind of goose we can find on the classic Western TV series Wanted Dead or Alive, starring the legendary Steve McQueen. On the episode Fatal Memory, Josh Randall sort of ties his horse up, but not really. And then later, when he goes back to the horse appears to be tied down properly. And then there's those doggone time travelers leaving tire tracks everywhere. I wonder if it was a DeLorean. On the episode The Favor, Josh is sitting around a campfire with his prisoner. Now I wonder what happened to that fire. In the episode Eager Man, Steve McQueen doesn't quite seem like himself for a second or two. I don't know. Something about the hair doesn't seem quite right. In the episode No Trail Back, Josh's hands are tied. But then they're not. And then they are again. Remember in the movie For a Few Dollars More when Eastwood and Lee Van Cleef took turns shooting at each other's hats for 5 or 10 minutes? Well, after all that shooting, where were all the bullet holes in the hats later on? Now you can see maybe a couple in Clint Eastwood's hat, but that's about it. Unless, of course, I missed the scene where they buy new hats. I was jogging on a treadmill the last time I watched this movie, so it's kind of hard to focus. Remember the epic 80s TV miniseries North and South that starred huge names like Patrick Swayze, Lloyd Bridges, William Shallard, coincidentally David Carradine, just to name a few? Well, watching this again the other day, I noticed in the scene with Jefferson Davis and General Lee that there was a boom mic in the mirror. Maybe it was one of those time travelers trying to record an historical event. Do you remember the 1977 series Grizzly Adams? I loved that show as a kid. Still a nice show to kick back and relax with. But the other day, as I've been rewatching this series for the first time in years, I guess, I came across one episode that just made me want to bang my head up against a wall. Season 2's episode, The Trial, has Ben, he's the bear, charged with stealing fish from the local Indian chief. Now, the fish was actually stolen by a little Indian boy that was part of the tribe. Well, the Indians decide that Ben must stand trial, and so they tell the bear to stay in a circle of rocks until the trial day, which I think was like the next day or so. But the thing that makes my brain hurt is the bear stays in the circle of his own free will, as far as I could tell. just stayed in the circle of rocks because he was told to. I mean, okay, it's a kid's show, but that kind of thing wouldn't even work on a Bugs Bunny cartoon. It's a wild bear was sort of tame, but it's still, to think that a big old bear like that is just going to stay in a circle like that all night long, that's crazy. Well, thanks for letting me get that off my chest. It was really bothering me. Though I did forget to mention the part where Adams is late for the bear's trial because he had to help a baby bird get back in its nest. Oh boy. But again, the series as a whole I found is very relaxing, like a nature hike without leaving my living room. And Denver Pyle and his mule will definitely make you laugh. For more funny Western bloopers and goofs, check out my last Western Goofs video. If you like the adventures of Superman from the 50s, you might also be interested in my last video, which looks at a few fun what-if scenarios, like what if George Reeves' Superman time traveled to World War II to help Wonder Woman win the war? And what do you think people in the Old West might have said if they saw Superman fly by? Plus, I look at some fun facts on the Superman episode Through the Time Barrier. And don't miss my McHale's Navy Goose video with some funny bloopers that you might enjoy. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to like and comment. Share your classic TV and movie Western memories. Let me know what you'd like to see next. Thanks, and y'all have a great day.
Remember what Pappy used to say?
Get out of Dodge.